The Z to Z Podcast.
Good morning, good evening, or good day, and welcome to the Z to Z Podcast, the home for Xbox achievement hunters and gamerscore junkies. I'm your host, Brandon Freeman. Thank you so much for listening. At Z to Z, we love gaming, and in particular, grabbing achievements and gaining gamerscore. We do news, reviews, and interviews. If it's about achievements, we'll unlock it. This week, we get back on semi-normal track as Terrigan returns to the show, although he must have given his Xbox or Skype flu to Crandy because he's sick. You people need to take better care of yourselves. Although Crandy and I do sit down and talk about In Between in our first Playing Zed challenge, as well as offer a review of this new game. You can find show notes for this show as well as previous shows on our website, z2z.com. This is episode 25. You can also contact us with questions or comments at Twitter. That's at Z2Z, Z-E-D-T-O-Z-E-D, or email us directly, contact@z2z.com. Today's show was brought to you by the achievement This Thing Sucks from the game Gun World Xbox One Edition. This game is a 2D platformer where guns literally grow on trees. You plant a seed and it sprouts into a gun for you. But prior to doing this, you respawn into the map with a giant sword-looking knife. So go ahead and try and kill someone with it. The achievement pops and the toast description says it all. Seriously, I know it's huge and cool, but don't use the knife. It's a gag weapon. This achievement is also a one-pointer, so if you ever need to even up your score, or in my case, set up a milestone, it's really easy to get. Special thanks to developer and publisher Mo7 Games. And if you, our fantastic listeners, have a suggestion for an achievement sponsor, let us know. You can contact us via Facebook or Twitter, of course, at Z2Z, Z-E-D-T-O-Z-E-D. That email, of course, contact@z2z.com, or you can even put it in a podcast review post. So today, it's just Terrigan and I. How are you doing today, Terrigan?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Doing well. We don't have Crandy. Did you get him sick? Because he's saying he's sick now.
Yeah, I think that was self-induced.
All the travel and whatnot?
Yeah, travel, trying to stay up too long, drinking that 5-hour energy drink thing he's talking about. Yeah,
that's right. He tried to go around the horn.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
silly.
So he decided not to sleep because he had an early flight, and decided that instead of sleeping, he would just pound what? If you have 2 5-hour energies, is that 10-hour energy?
Yeah.
Is that the idea?
Something like that. Yeah, I
think it works.
I'm imagining it's all caffeine, of course.
Of course it is. 85 milligrams of caffeine in a 5-hour energy, which is the equivalent of a Mountain Dew has like 35 milligrams of caffeine, so that would be 2.5 Mountain Dews, or two and a little bit of Mountain Dews. Diet Coke has 37, a 12-ounce can of Diet Coke.
I'm a heavy coffee drinker. I know I can do a lot of caffeine, but when you're getting into kind of no-dose levels of caffeine, it's like you taking that much in that burst of a short amount of time, and I get the jitters.
Depends on your coffee, though, because coffee can range anywhere from 30 milligrams to 120 milligrams, depending on your roast and how you prepare it.
Yeah.
Do you take the good stuff?
Yep. Yeah.
Good.
Always.
Good for you.
Yeah. I'm from Melbourne. We have excellent coffee here. So, yeah, I don't know. I think having 2 of those things in a short amount of time would probably get me very, very irritated and jumpy. And
a lot of it's the vitamins, actually. The vitamins that are in there.
Vitamin B and things like that.
Yep, the vitamin B activate. Well, they don't call it the Krebs cycle anymore, but that metabolism cycle that tends to break down all your sugars for energy. That's your short-lived burst, not really your sustained energy, and so you tend to get a little sluggish afterwards.
Yep.
Maybe it divides, like a 2 5-hour energies equals a 2.5-hour energy, and gut rot, of course.
Yeah, so he didn't come out of that very well, from what I gather.
And we'll see if he reaches out. Maybe he'll upload a mug of whatever he put his 5-hour energy in. But we don't have one right this minute, so we'll leave that as an open issue. couple other introduction content type things. The random to-do list beta, all right? I put up what I'm calling the last list. I might do another one, but this is at least the official last list is up for all the beta participants. It's been going pretty well. So I think functionality-wise, it's there. I think the point structure is coming along okay. And I think the plan moving forward is coming along. But with Leapfrog, with the impending Bean Dive coming up here, I think the timing is off. And so Darrigan and I have been kicking around some ideas about that. And so expect an announcement soon with a rule set. And like I mentioned before, the TA, the True Achievements leaderboard for Z2Z Podcast, is the place to get all the information when this thing does go live and opens up for registration, because we have run some numbers, and without making TA mad, we will have to cap the number of entrants. And so what that will mean is there will be an upper limit to which we can accept. And in historically over at the Achievement Hounds podcast or Achievement Hounds forums, that has been over what we anticipate as our limit. So we're going to open up a waiting list if it does indeed fill. And if you're not participating, then we'll find a home for those people on the waiting list. So don't think that you'll be precluded from participating. But all that stuff we can figure out when it finally does go live. The most important thing to glean is near future, and you need to be on the Z2Z True Achievements leaderboards so you can get all the information when we do go live with it. One other thing that I want to mention, and it's a little bit of a teaser, because Darrigan and I have been playing around in some mock forums. We're not there yet. It's a long road for getting your own forum started, but let's just say we've been testing out some functionality and playing around. So we don't have anything to announce yet, but all we can tell you is that we are working on it, and hopefully soon we can get a home for all of our awesome listeners and everybody who helps support the show and contributes, and our social, our fans, as it were, a place to converse. So that's in the works. One thing that is actually live right this minute, a social group that you can in fact join, and we kind of joked about it earlier in when we started recording podcasts, but it is now official. We have a Fitbit group. The Z2Z Podcast is a community. It's a public group that you can just go to Fitbit.com and search and just join up. And, as long as you're registered on Fitbit, you probably should own a Fitbit if you're, because you'll be sitting at 0 steps then. But if you are part of that group, it was a great idea. So Saucy Slingo kind of got the ball rolling. Was like, hey, we talked about this before. Why don't you guys do it? He's actually kind of starting a workout program at his work, and he's already on Fitbit and stuff. He's like, you guys talked about this and you never did it. So he went ahead and set up a leaderboard. It's Z2Z Podcast, easy to find. Literally, you type the word ZED, and it's the only one that pops up. I don't know, Darrigan, did you have any issues finding that being over in Australia?
Nope, found it first try.
Perfect. Then there you go. So yeah, I think there's I literally set it up this morning, and there's like 6 people in it already. So you're more than welcome to join. It'll be fun. I don't know if I'll issue any challenges and anything like that, but you can see a great image of Saucy Slingo on there. He looks actually there was a conversation between him and NBA Kirkland saying, hey, your picture doesn't really look that saucy. I don't know. and Saucy said, no, I was at work, real serious stuff. So anyway, it's one tiny little avenue that we can all socialize and vie for achievements. I know they have badges over there, but maybe not necessarily the type of gamer score related things, but it's fun. Maybe it'll keep you motivated. I don't know. Elle issued a challenge a while back to do steps, and somebody I don't know what that person was doing, but they just destroyed it. I'm pretty sure they put it on like an animal or something, and just I can't imagine somebody walking for like 80,000 steps in a day. That seems. They probably had a race that day. They're like, oh yeah, let's set one up for this week because I know I'm going to kill it. Anyway, final thing that I want to mention is X Towers. He's like, hey, let's get some regular streamers going. And unfortunately, yeah, I had mentioned on the last podcast I was hoping to do a Dark Souls stream last weekend. Didn't happen. There's way too much going on. This whole week has been just dreadful for me, as far as having to wake up at 4 a.m. to go to the gym, to then stay late with customers all week. This next week's going to be dreadful for me. So we're working on it, X. We want to try and figure something out, try and set up like a regular time. Now that The Bachelor, I guess it's The Bachelorette has started, my Mondays gaming is pretty well locked in now. And so like maybe I do some Dark Souls Mondays. But then again, it's like, do I really want to start my week out just, in Dark Souls? Like that seems like I'm setting myself up for a really terrible week.
Pretty demoralizing start to any week.
Right? Like I can't do anything this week. I'm such a failure. I can't even get to the next bonfire. How can I do whatever So I don't know, but definitely try and find some things, and even, it's another great week for it when we do the Playing Zed challenge, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But maybe setting up a community play date. We've already got two challenges from the community, open challenges going. I think Terrigan, you, Facial and CS Geek Squad reached out to us to get something started. So
Facial will just went and challenged me with a goal.
Yeah, he just up and sent a game over.
Yep. So yeah, and CS Geek Squad gave a list of sort of games that we have in common. So we can go through that a bit later. But yeah. So
yeah, I mean, so that for me, right? If it's my week, if it's an on week for me, then Mondays probably work out for that. And I don't know. So we'll see. Actually, my idea of my game for CS Geek Squad might actually work really well for that. So, but I have to reach out to him and we'll try and lock it in. It won't be this week, but we'll do our best, X, to try and be a little bit more transparent and maybe set up like a calendar type thing that we can take a look at, but not quite there yet. So I think that's about it for kind of our intro content. Why don't we transition into your Terrigan's wallet? How's that holding up this week, Terrigan?
It's suffered a bit of a hit this week, actually, because I've as long-time listeners would know, I've had a bit of a plan for this year's Bean Dive, which is the project I've called Balrog, which is basically Bean Dive all the little loved, rare, and overlooked games. And what that means to me is basically anybody or any game that's on True Achievements that hasn't been started by or hasn't been started by very many people. So my cutoff is 300 people. Now it's coming up to...
This list is just dumb. Just look at this list. I'm like, how do you even find these? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, some of them are a bit tricky. I have to do a bit of ordering from Japan for a lot of them. Yeah, so there's a bunch of these games that basically are either very late in the Xbox 360 sort of release cycle, or they're just obscure Japanese titles, or they're just not very popular in the first place, like Tour de France. But yeah, I'll just go through the games that I've bought firstly, and then I've got a bunch of others I've ordered, so they're still on the way. I haven't put them on my list yet, just because I don't want to count them off until I actually get them. But Greg Hastings Paintball 2, the European version of that. That's an interesting game, not very popular.
Is there? I mean, because it's an EU version, does that suggest there are other regional stacks of that?
Yes, there are stacks of that one, believe it or not.
Goodness gracious.
So it was. There are more than 300 starters for the US version, believe it or not, but the EU version is a bit more obscure. So I got a digital copy of that. I also got a digital copy of a game called Motorcycle Club, which it's a weird title.
Sounds remarkably generic.
Yeah. So the Escapist 360 and Super Meat Boy, those were, I think, the Escapists you bought. And Super Meat Boy was, of course, the Games with Gold this month. So I've never actually played that. It seemed like one of those, I really don't feel like bashing my head against a wall for 3 hours whilst I try and get past the first level kind of games.
It's not the first level. It's like the first world.
Okay. It seemed like not one of those games I'd have a lot of fun with, so I didn't pick it up.
It's pretty responsive though. So like if you screw up, it's you that screwed up. So that I like that.
Yeah.
You're not fighting the controls. It's smooth.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
So the other ones I picked up were Just Dance Disney Party 2 on Xbox One, which complements the Xbox 360 version that I already had. Not a very popular game.
Interesting.
And I also just picked up a new indie game that came out because I've been waiting for this one, actually. Among the Sleep. I don't know if you've heard anything about this title.
I've seen a bunch of promos for it recently. Sounds disturbing.
It is. It does remind me of elements of the Layers of Fear game, which I've talked about in depth before, but it's...
is it scary?
It is.
Like, because I didn't...
It is. It's actually a bit scary. It's not over the top scary, but it's essentially you're like a 2-year-old toddler, and something happens and your mother goes missing, and you've essentially got to traverse through these weird sort of dream sort of escape worlds to try and find her. And you do this with
your teddy bear.
With your teddy bear, who actually I started the game, and the first time I saw the teddy bear, I was just weirded out. It's like, what the hell is this? Why is this thing moving and talking and walking around? Yeah, so I was a bit weirded out by the teddy bear at first, but it is quite scary. The ambience and just also because you're a 2-year-old, everything looms really high above you. So you've just got this kind of feeling of you're very small in this world. Okay. It's done really well. So it's actually a pretty quick game. The achievements are pretty quick if you're looking just to get the achievements out of it. I think it's about a 3-hour game with a collector's guide, but I'm just playing through it because I happen to enjoy the style of game, and I remember seeing it on PC a while ago.
Is it atmospheric scary? Is there jump scares? Is it like Alien Isolation? Are we talking Slender? Outlast?
It is probably, it's very atmospheric scary, I would say. There's actually not a lot of ways that you sort of get killed or die. Like you can fall into things, and that's sort of silly. There are some sort of monster things that appear later, but you're mostly just trying to hide and run away from them. So in that sense, it's more an Alien Isolation kind of scare. Not really many jump scares. I think the only jump scares are when you actually get caught by the thing.
Sure.
So yeah, it's not really heavy on the jump scares. It's really just atmospheric and very dark, and you're kind of wandering through this world, and you feel very vulnerable just as essentially as a 2-year-old. So
right. Okay, then maybe I will play it because
I think it's worth playing even if you're not a fan of that sort of genre. It's not over the top. It's not Layers of Fear level of.
I was gonna say, because you didn't sell me on Layers of Fear. That sounded like that was just gonna have to change my shorts.
Yeah, yeah. Layers of Fear was definitely the jump scares and just pressure of the entire sort of thing, and you also really, really screws with your mind as well, because you're walking through a door and then turn around and the entire thing changes, that kind of thing. That doesn't happen. that doesn't happen in Among the Sleep. It's just you're kind of walking through worlds that you see from a childlike point of view. It's very dark and scary in some aspects, but it's mostly about the atmosphere. So, yeah,
cool. Okay,
I think you'd like it.
Good. I'm in.
And then I ordered a whole bunch of games for Balrog. So I'll just go through them quickly. Tour de France 2015 for Xbox One, MotoGP 15 for Xbox 360, Transformers Devastation for Xbox 360. Psycho Break, which is actually Evil Within, the Japanese version for Xbox One. Zoids Infinity EX Neo, which is a obscure Japanese kind of robot game. Super Robot Taisen XO, another Japanese game.
Sounds like an obscure robot Japanese game.
Funnily enough. Army of Two 40th Day, which the Japanese version of that, so not many people have played it. Overlord, Japanese version of that. A game called Cross Edge Dash, I think it's a fighting game, Japanese, of course.
Sounds like a fighter.
Yeah. Hokuto Musuo, which is Fist of the North, Ken's Rage, Japanese version of that, which is actually not on my Balrog list. The first version of that, like there's actually a sequel, number 2, which is on my list, and I ordered this one by accident, so oh well. This one actually has about 800 starters, I think, so it's still pretty low. Double Clutch, which is the Japanese version of Conflict Denied Ops. IHF Handball Challenge 14.
That sounds like a gem.
Yeah. Rabbit's Invasion TV, which is on the 360, surprisingly few starters. I think the digital version of that one got more.
That's Rabbids.
Yeah.
3-man Rabbids. It's all unobtainable.
Yeah, that's that too. Psychopath Mandatory Happiness, which is the visual novel for Xbox One. So that's actually a bit of a story on that one, because they were meant to be releasing a Western version of that with translations, and I was having a look into it just as after I ordered the Japanese version, and they're apparently going to release it on PS4 and on PC, but they're not going to release an Xbox One version, which just makes no sense to me whatsoever, because they've already got the engine there and they're already doing a translation. Why not just release it?
Yeah, right.
You've already done the work. It's like, it seems like it'd be less work to do that. Anyway, I actually questioned them on Twitter about it, because it's like, it makes no sense not to release an Xbox One version of that. I mean, sure, it didn't sell very well in Japan, but that's not the game's fault. That's just because the console hasn't done well in Japan.
Right. Yeah, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah. Diario, Reverse Moon Legend. I'm really not sure what that game is about. And last one was a bit of a hard one to find. I actually found this one at a reasonable price. I'll just note, when I went through my list, basically I was looking at every sort of game that was around about the $30 to $35 US range or less. And this game, Momotaro Dentetsu 16 Gold, usually goes for about $60 to $80 US. But I managed to find a cheaper copy. So I'm not sure why it's actually that expensive. But I did manage to find a copy for a reasonable price, so I'm pretty happy about that one. And
what an obscure list!
Yeah,
that is just weird.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting dive this year.
Yeah, I don't look forward to that at all. I'm still on the fence of whether I'm going to do a bean dive or not.
I'll just do it.
Yeah, but I don't think I physically can get the 300 games on my card in 10 days.
You don't have to. I don't expect to do it all within. I've sort of given myself a month or so.
Still,
it's really, that's the official bean dive period. But realistically, I've got my own goals, which is to try and start as many of these games. And if I take longer to do it, then I take longer to do it.
That's kind of the thing. It's like I might as well just play the games, and just check them off when I'm going through them, because I got so many started games. It's like I don't want to have this big old gorilla. I've actually kept track of what my dive would be. I'd go down to 18% if I added all your games on there. Yeah, it's abysmal.
That's quite impressive.
Anyway.
I don't think I can actually get that low, even with my bean dive here, because I've already got so many started games on my tag. Each one I add only really takes about a 0.25% off my total. So it gets harder and harder to get your completion percentage lower the more games you add. It's funny.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, mine would effectively, I'm at 370 games right now. Mine would effectively double if I added everything that's still just kind of sitting around. So, yeah, gross. Speaking of TA community events, I opened up my friend feed, and the first response from Burna Bros was say, "Hey, you guys should talk about Leapfrog." Well, I croaked. It happened almost immediately after recording last week's podcast. I had 3 achievements left in Project Spark, and I was going to do those 3 and then move into 3s. And it was, again, a terrible week for me last week, so I was quite tired, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do the quick one. I've got Ceph challenges. I'm at 49 out of 50, so I just need one challenge. It'll be real quick. Great. I sign in, do the challenge. I look at the tracker, 32 out of 50. I'm like, what the? Come on! How did it plummet to 32?
The challenges on that game are so buggy.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me! And so I was like, okay, fine. I will play. Where I left off on Unstoppable was I know I have one character who has yet to complete all 6 chapters without dying. And I thought, so when I had done it with Avalon, I thought, oh, that was going to be her. That was the end of it. And it went to 95%. So there's one chapter somewhere. I was like, okay, maybe it was Karlsnor because I died a few times on the bosses, but I dashboarded each time. So it should have counted, but maybe it didn't. So I went through his, and by that time it was so late, I was like, I got to go to bed. So I just threw in the towel. It was the end of that. So then, of course, when I came back the next day, I did the Ceph challenge. Guess what? It popped. I was at 49 out of 50. I'm like, God. And then I played through Hakon. I did the Hakon. It was not him. So now I'm thinking it might be Scarlet, because I think I did Scarlet with my son. We played the co-op with Scarlet.
Yeah, sometimes the co-op ones don't count.
Yep, I think that screwed it up. So I'm going to have to play through with Scarlet at some point. That should unlock Unstoppable. Otherwise, I guess I have to do Avalon again. But Scarlet's next. And then just get to level 50. And I will beat you. Because how many weeks do you still have yet? 3 more weeks? 2 more weeks? Okay.
Yep, so 2 Fridays. So if you haven't got it all done by Friday week, I'll win.
Yeah, I guess. So what about you, Terrigan? How's your leapfrog going?
Slow and steady. I think it was basically the start of last week I had to actually really start thinking about and planning. So I've actually got a bit of a plan going. I think I'm pretty right up to around about 13, ratio 13. But I am happy.
That your roadmap is planned out to 13?
Yep, and I've got more beyond that. That sort of from about 13 and up is where it starts to get really hard to find anything to like specifically fill gaps. So you kind of need to do things higher. And of course, new games are coming out too, which will throw a bit of a spanner in the works. Mirror's Edge in particular, I think we'll have some high ratios to begin with, which will then dive really quickly. So it just is a matter of when those achievements kind of peak along with the leapfrog. So it's going to be a bit interesting juggling that kind of stuff. But I've basically got myself pretty much planned out till at least 13, and I should be able to go beyond that. So yeah, I'm hoping for at least a top 50 finish. We'll see how it goes.
What are we at? We're at like 300 now, right?
Yeah, it's down to about 300. So we'll see how it goes.
Pretty awesome. Yeah, good luck on that. I'm happy I'm out. I'm glad it's done. Like, it was fun. And I was going to be out this week anyway, and so I'm glad the pressure is off, because if I had gotten those Project Spark ones, like, I would have felt obligated to grind out to get those achievements and like really work at 3s or whatever I was doing next, because I didn't really have any interest in playing Rare Replay, Killer Instinct, Master Chief Collection, whatever's left on any of those. Just didn't really do it for me. So I'm glad I don't have to worry about it. We had our first Playing Zed this week. Crandy and I picked the game In Between, the new game. And we'll discuss that in Shovelware Cemetery, kind of as a review piece, but I will give you the update on the challenge. Crandy whooped me. That wasn't that bad. We were going at a steady pace back and forth. We kind of each played an hour a night, and we were progressing at exactly the same rate. We'd finish a chapter each night. And then I had quite a late evening last night, and only finished one chapter, and Crandy decided, I'm just going to finish the game. And so he did. I have, so there's 71 levels in the game. I'm at level 57, and so obviously he finished 71. And the achievement list is actually kind of backloaded in that regard. You get an achievement for each chapter, and then at the end of it, it's finishing the chapter, watching the credits, finishing the game. I mean, so like the last thing you do nets you 300 plus. You see one of the last memory things, that's another 100. So it's like 400 to 500 gamer score pops at the very end, which is great. You know, it sounds like a great candidate for
nice preloading there for
preloading. Absolutely. Now, the one thing I will, and we'll probably get into more detail, is the achievements. They're glitchy. They glitched for me. I have died well over 100 times, and my counter has been stuck at 91. Crandy has likely died well over 100, and his is stuck at 100. So he got the achievement. I didn't, because I need to get to 100. The other thing, both of our achievements for recovering the memories, the counter isn't working for that one either. Now, his cleared up. He went back and got some old ones, and it worked. I've done some hard resets. I've done some, forced quits, profile switching, all sorts of stuff like that. None of that has worked for me yet. So I'll have to go back, kind of probably do some level selects and maybe see if I can catch back up with where I left off type thing. I don't know. Anyway, we'll get our impressions of that game in Shovelware Cemetery. As for next week, we've got some outstanding challenges that are kind of floating around out there. So nothing I'm going to mention on the podcast per se, but you can watch our respective friend feeds for challenge, some goals being set up. Whether one of us will take up the mantle this week and challenge CS Geek Squad to something. I think that'll take place this week, and we'll see who's up for the task. Maybe it'll be me. We'll see what Crandy wants to do, but one of us is going to end up doing that. It's tough right now with Terrigan focused on the leapfrog. Me, I don't know what I'm focused on. Actually, I think I'm focused on work because my gaming time is going to be very limited this week. So we might have to. You'll see on our friend feed. But as far as what I actually played this week, it was in between, of course, for the challenge. I did a lot of that. Played a bunch of Project Spark, which I mentioned earlier, and my son and I also played a bunch of Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2. Again, just grinding out some of the challenges. You have to get a bunch of stars, you have to unlock a bunch of stuff. So I've been working on that. I don't know. I've been keeping my eye out for when that price drops so that we can actually purchase it. I'm going to feel bad when it's just sitting there with, 8 to 12 achievements and very incomplete. But I guess I did that on the first one, so maybe it doesn't bother me that much. But I do have to get back around to that. My focus, I really want to focus on getting some of these just really close completions done. I'm so close to finishing Destiny. I'm almost done with In Between, so close to Project Spark, Disney Infinity 2.0. I'm in good shape on, so it's just gotta get these things done. Actually, I bought the DLC for Disney 3.0, the Marvel Battlegrounds, which will work for the Xbox 360 version because that list is on there, but that list hasn't shown up for the One version, yet it's out there. So do you think it's not going to have achievements?
Bit hard to say. They might just be delayed. I know the Elite Horizon expansion actually just came out, and although it was released and I had the license for it and was downloading it and doing everything like that, the achievement list didn't turn up for a little while after that. So it may just be delayed. Bit hard to say.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that it would be on the 360 and not... But it's listed as unknown pack, not Marvel Battlegrounds DLC or playset or whatever.
It's also, in the case of things like that where they've announced DLC but it hasn't fully been released yet, the achievements can get scanned early on the 360. I think that's just something to do with the way they release, the release cycles work for 360 versus One. They'll release it and it has to publish the achievements via the servers and whatnot, but the actual content isn't available yet. But on the Xbox One, they can do it pretty much as it happens rather than doing it
I suppose.
So yeah, often from at least from what Crandy was saying, that the achievements on the 360 versions will appear well before the Xbox Ones turn up.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
And also the other thing I bought this week was Back to the Future level pack for Lego Dimensions. That was dirt cheap. So I'll be able to get that DLC too. It doesn't help you any, but it helps me out. Turgan, what about you? What have you been up to?
I've been a bit all over the place, actually. I was just having a look through my list. Well, firstly, as I mentioned earlier, Among the Sleep, I picked that up just on release and have been playing through that, sort of just following the story. I have touched on Minecraft. There's Minecraft on the 360 had a title update, which added a few actually fairly easy achievements, but they're high ratio just because the game has been played by almost everyone, and they're a title update that got released later, so they typically become high ratio. So just doing that to kind of get through the 7.2 threshold on the Leapfrog. Also been playing a bit of Killer Instinct, which I know a lot of people have been going to. There's a bunch of high ratio ones for just completing 200 matches as various characters, which I've basically been turboing through. So that's kind of getting me through a few days there. A little bit of Six Guns on Windows 8, which is one of those Gameloft free-to-play kind of games. It's a little bit like... It's a Western. It's kind of set in... It feels a little bit like Red Dead Redemption, just without any kind of story. And it's kind of got that bit of that sort of free-to-play kind of feel, like you can always go and buy things to kind of power your way through things or whatnot. But you don't have to. It's just more of a grind otherwise. But there are a few pretty high-value achievements in that I'm basically preparing now, so later on I'll be able to pop those once those ratios come up, but they will require a bit of work. So yeah, just prepping some of that. What else? I have been touching on a bit of Rare Replay as well, just for some of those to get through 6.0 and 6.4 on the Leapfrog, and we were running pretty close to the line last week. That's something we should touch on. The GTA SC, the Great True Achievement Scoring Challenge, the eliminations changed this week. So period 20 was the official last week of the 10% cutoff. So basically 10% of the field gets knocked out every week. From period 21 and on, only two teams get knocked off. So it was
that'd be nice.
Yeah, so it was kind of my goal to basically make it past period 20, because that was kind of the... it was just kind of a nice milestone. That's around about halfway through as well. So we made it past there, but it was pretty difficult. So I actually ended up burning a couple of fairly easy games, in particular Night Squad, which I think you touched on in the previous episode, which is a nice easy 1K. I think I did that in about 2.5 hours or something. And Factotum 90, which was a new game I picked up last week. That hits the club for games that you don't need to complete to get all the achievements. I think you can basically play through the game to about level 17 or something like that, and that's all you need to get all of the unlocked items and things like that to unlock all the achievements. I did actually go through and finish it because it's I kind of like those kind of style of puzzle games. It's like essentially a first-person puzzler with robots that you got to move around and manipulate parts of the environment to get past these levels. So I didn't mind that game, but it is a nice, quick, easy 1K. And before that, a little bit of Xbox Fitness and Blast and Bunnies, just to kind of round out my period. And I think that's about it, really.
Cool. So with where's that cutoff then with GTSC? Now that it's kind of dropped down, is it still for teams up in like the 10,000s?
No, it's actually dropped quite a lot. So we're actually sitting, because there's basically the bottom two will pass, but as it's sitting right now, and as I record this, it's about 5 hours before cutoff. 5 hours. It's sitting at about the 5,000 mark, so the cutoff has actually dropped significantly. I guess we'll see how it gets closer to the time, but yeah, the cutoff, we're at 4,700, and the next one up is 5,493. So yeah, the cutoff will probably be around about this 6 to 7 range, I would guess. But yeah,
sure,
got to try and put some points on before it finishes tomorrow. So actually,
well, man, we better wrap this thing up.
yeah, actually, sorry,
Gotta get
it's
some
actually
scoring going.
5 hours plus 24 hours. Sorry, it's tomorrow. So yeah.
Oh, gotcha. You're set then. You're set. So we can move into listener feedback.
Yes,
We got time.
sure can.
Great. We're going to start off with a comment, and it's from NBA Kirkland. He says, hey, just kind of throwing this out there. By the way, NBA is actually my initials. It has nothing to do with the National Basketball Association. So why would my wife be WNBA? It doesn't make any sense. Big L responds by saying, well, why wouldn't she be? And I agree. It would be wife of NBA Kirkland, right? That's what the W stands for. So whatever the initials are, Nick Bartholomew Allen. I'm just going to make up. That's his name now. So, yeah, I didn't realize that. I just assumed NBA Kirkland was a huge fan of the National Basketball Association.
Well, I thought too. Oh, well.
But apparently not. And we had a message from Burna Bros on this was on your blog, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. About the music stuff we talked about a couple episodes ago.
This is from our backlog.
Yeah. Apparently the Game of Thrones game on actually had the music from the show before it appeared on the show.
Oh, really?
Which was interesting.
I didn't realize.
And he also said thanks for the shout out the other week. So
you bet.
Cool.
You got some more. So here you go. We'll move into some questions then. This was an older question from JJ Aldana on my friend feed from a couple of weeks ago. It says, hey, imagine that State of Decay 2 was announced. What would you want from it? He says, for me, co-op is a must. And I kind of mentioned this about some crazy fun announcements that I would like, from Undead Labs. And it would be if they were able to go ahead and do what they were saying in Class 4, which would be your kind of persistent world. I mean, it sucks because I don't want to compare it to Defiance because Defiance wasn't all that popular. But like that was kind of the idea, right? This giant, massive world. Only in the State of Decay version, it's actually probably more like Ark, where you build these colonies, you kind of all work together, right? I'm going to go cook food for the colony. I'm going to, plant crops, going on raiding runs and things. And it would be kind of that type of persistent online world. It sounds awesome, and I totally would like to play it, but it also sounds daunting and not my type of game. And so as cool as it would be, I'm not sure I would actually be involved in it. Especially if it took the route of Ark Survival Evolved, where it's in the early access program for, they just had their 1-year anniversary, and it's not going to come out for another 6 months. So, talking 18 months in preview, like that's a long preview program build. It's a lot. And there's plenty to do. So if you enjoy the game, you don't care about achievements, yeah, you got plenty of time. But I just sit there saying, oh, why aren't I earning achievements? What's wrong with this? So, that would be kind of on top of my list is as State of Decay came out and made the type of zombie game that is very different from your traditional zombie games of just, maybe resource management is always prevalent in those types of games, but this is like actually base building. This is like community developing, really managing resources. Like I think they made a lot of really great strides, and so if they could continue to push those into this next game, and maybe have more kind of in-depth character, relationships. Interwoven storylines between characters, right? And so you give each individual person maybe a little bit more of a backstory, a little bit more that they can, contribute to the overall feel and essence of your community. At this point, and it works when you've kind of grown attached to these guys. You're running around playing them, and you create your own stories, right? They're kind of a clean slate. Yeah, they've got a little blurb of a backstory, but if you're running around and it's like, oh yeah, and you've dodged zombies, and oh, you should have seen this run he made, and he outran these zombies. He was so dog tired, but he managed to sneak inside of a building and hide and rest or whatever. You create your own narrative, but maybe having a little bit more of a fleshed out backstory would be kind of kind of exciting. So I don't know. I'm curious what I feel like they're due for an announcement, like I said in previous shows. So I think it's coming up. You have anything to add to that, Terrigan, or?
No, other than I just have not played enough of that game. I really should.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, actually, I haven't even played that much of it either. So we'll move on. So Kaiba Chaos in our backlog says, "Hey, should Microsoft just give up in Japan now that Microsoft end up getting games that are pretty heavily not Japan exclusive, but very influenced on the Japanese gaming catalog, such as Final Fantasy, Star Oceans, Kingdom Hearts. Those games that are popping up on Sony all the time because of their strength out on in the eastern half of the world."
Yeah, I think as though that those games are also traditionally strong in the Western market. So I don't know that, they're Japanese styled games, but they're not necessarily unpopular in the Western market, and that's the difference there. I think the question is really, should Microsoft be focusing, or should they try and win some market share in Japan with specific Japanese-focused things, because that's traditionally not been their strongest market, even with the Xbox 360. And from what I gather, the Xbox One's doing even worse.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a bit hard to say. Certainly they're not where they'd like to be. And it's a bit of a mystery to me as to why. I guess
I'm scratching my head here, doing the same thing. Like, to me, like, games are games, and like I look at the games available for the United States, Australia, UK, and it's like they're all very. I mean, yeah, they've got a huge variety of different games that you can play, but like the entire breadth of catalog is pretty much the same. And it's like, as a gamer, right, we all kind of just like really good games, and if it's a fun gameplay or a good story, some people like graphics, whatever. So what is this?
It's just,
what is this weird group of games that like is super successful in Japan that nobody else like? Is it visual? Is it weird visual novels? Is that like what we're missing?
No, I don't think so. I think they're not even terribly popular even in Japan. I mean, they're more popular in Japan than elsewhere, but I don't think they're not super sellers.
Is it the mobile market? Is that just because mobile is so big over there now?
Well, possibly, but I think the thing is, though, you have to look at PlayStation. PlayStation is selling pretty well over in Japan, from what I gather.
Oh, yeah?
So why has PlayStation won that market? Is it just brand loyalty? Is it loyalty to a local brand rather than seeing Microsoft as some kind of usurper in the marketplace? I don't really know. I guess that comes down to maybe just Westerners not really understanding the Japanese market when it comes right down to it, because I certainly don't. I don't know. As to whether they should give up, I don't think they should, because it's a big market, and if you can crack that market, great. And I mean, even if they don't do well this generation, and the same thing with the Xbox 360 last generation, even if they don't do that well, they still need a presence there in order to be able to set themselves up for the next time around when they might have another chance at it. So, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I think they didn't really do themselves any favors with their launch. I think the Japan launch was later. Was it on the same day one, or was that later than day one?
Much later.
The rest of the world. Yeah, so they probably didn't do themselves any favors there. I think PlayStation beat them to market there, and also the Kinect being bundled in and the price difference has probably really hurt them, because it certainly hurt them in the rest of the world, but must have hurt them more in Japan, where they already don't have a particularly good sort of reputation, I guess.
I
guess their initial missteps are probably really, really screwed them up in that market, unfortunately. But I don't think they should leave it. At least, not yet. The other market as well that's of interest is China.
Yeah.
Which is not really selling that well, from what I gather anyway. But it's certainly an interesting one to keep an eye on. Now they've kind of got their feet in the market.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how that continues to grow and what does the Nintendo NX, is that able to make a push? Is that, it's very interesting with a budding industry, in China where that might end up going. So Big L has a comment in response to the topic that we had last week regarding meeting people, meeting friends. He met Michelle, obviously. He says, "Hey, I wonder if there were people who have met their significant other." And Crandy actually says he met his wife online. I don't think he means like Tinder. I think he means like in like a legit online community, but not on TA. So I'm curious, Crandy, you're gonna have to fill us in on that story when you are feeling better about how this this meet cute plays out. Is it EverQuest? Did you save her from a dragon or something? Or
what's that game he's played a lot of?
Graw.
Well, the other Graw, the PC.
RuneScape.
Like RuneScape. Yeah. That's it. Maybe it was RuneScape.
Oh, she was so impressed by his felching, his felching 99 or is it fletching?
Fletching. Felching is a whole other thing, which we that's one for Urban Dictionary. Go look that up later.
Yeah, NSFW. We will not put that in the show notes, so don't go looking for what felching is. If you have a 99 in that, you've got some issues. Saucy Sligo poses us a would you question. Would you take $1 million, but every video game you play and every movie you watch stops before the ending? Now, again, we probably need to put a little bit of a clarification here, right? So if it's like, hey, you don't get to see any of the credits, it's like, don't worry about that. I'm okay. I think what he's suggesting is that, the satisfaction of what, the payoff, that you're missing out on that. So where does it cut, right? Is it, let's take a Telltale, right? You never get to play episode 5. You always can only play the first 4 and you can never finish 5. Like that's your limit. And I kind of do that already. That's the problem. Like you look at your Bean Dived list and it's like, wow, I got a lot of games I never actually finished. So, boy, if I was $1 million richer, then maybe I could sit and, I would probably have more time to play those games, and then I could work toward finishing them, and then, of course, they'd stop. But I'd be hard-pressed to pass up that type of money. What about you, Terrigan?
I think I would say definitely no. To me, $1 million is, it's a significant amount of money, but it is something that you will, earn in, a decade or whatever. It's kind of to never ever see another ending of a game or a movie ever again. That seems like a bit too much of a cost. I mean, there's a reason you play these games or watch movies, and that is basically to get through to the end of them. Ultimately, movies in particular. It seems like you're basically saying, I never want to be entertained again, but give me $1 million. That doesn't really work for me.
Yeah, but you got to think. You have to look at games that don't have an ending. Then you look at we're not going to enjoy playing Infinite Runners all the time, but I would say, call it Overwatch Online, right? That doesn't really have an ending. That's just you just be playing online games all the time. There's no quote unquote end to Call of Duty.
And I mean, the end of Destiny wasn't that great.
No, you'd have to play Crucible.
But does that mean that you would not be able to finish the raid? Like any of them?
Yeah, probably not. No,
you get to the last section of the raid, and then just stop.
Yeah, orcs can't be killed. But you'd ultimately then tailor your gaming to competitive gaming. Like you would never be able to play the stories because you'd always be left wanting to know how it ended, and you wouldn't be able to. But you could play the multiplayer parts.
I guess for me is that I kind of hate the multiplayer parts. So it's
$1 million. I'd learn to like them.
Yeah, I would probably say no.
I could see it. Hey, that's fair. I mean, to be honest, like it's a good question because I would be disappointed if I never experienced Life is Strange or some of the Telltale stories that are really impactful or the ending of Limbo. I really liked that. I hope you guys went and checked out that Kotaku article we posted in 2 episodes ago about that discussion. Like that was really interesting. Those are. You need to have the complete package to get that level of satisfaction out of those. So, yeah, there's a huge sacrifice there. But again, it's the $1 million is the, essentially not having to work for the immediate future. It's not going to be in this day and age. It's not going to be the save all, be end all to working ever, but it certainly would make your life real easy for a couple of years. As long as you weren't completely wasteful like Brewster's Millions, where you just start spending money like crazy.
Well, I'd just spend it all on new games anyway.
You would, that you can never finish. Hey, Sloshy Slingo also has a possible show topic suggestion. He says, hey, maybe we can cover some more games that stack across Windows Phone, Windows 10, Xbox, those types of games that where you play it on one of them and you load up on the other, that they pop on both, or at least some progress carries over. I think this was kind of in the way I had mentioned with Disney Infinity. We had talked about Project Spark, obviously, having some cross-compatibility. And he sent us a forum link with maybe some ideas. I think this ultimately could be a show in and of itself, and so we'll likely not go deep into it here. But yeah, there's a lot of certainly sneaky ways too that aren't as easy as like, oh yeah, no, it's a list that you can just transfer your account over and unlocks on both sides, easy peasy. That's a great list to have. But there's also those sneaky ones, like I had mentioned with Disney Infinity, where, oh, yeah, the levels are carried over, but they're kind of glitchy. Other than that, it doesn't really work. Or, another game where you maintain some progress, but, again, have to go back and play through certain elements.
It's interesting in this list. They've got a Project Spark to Project Spark Xbox 360 is apparently one you can do that with, which is interesting because the Xbox 360 version of Project Spark never came out.
That's right. I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. Well, not to be outdone, Big L also came up with a topic for the show. This is via private message to me. He said, here's the important topic. Crandy's voice sounds a lot like Krang's from the 1980s cartoon series, and he should make an alt account called Krangy. KR.
Is that Krang from TMNT or something like that?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Krang. He does have his moments, especially if he is tired and he's got that like that little like gravel in his throat. Sounds a little crangy. He doesn't do that weird in previous shows. In the outtakes you heard Prue talking about Donatello's toothy gap in his tooth. He and I had a long Ninja Turtles conversation prior to recording, and so that was an artifact of that. And in that one, we had talked about the episode where the new Nickelodeon Ninja Turtles, they travel back in time to the 1980s cartoon series Ninja Turtles in a parallel dimensions type thing. And so that Krang character comes back with they got all the same voice actors and stuff. It's actually a brilliant episode, and even the old 80s one did the same thing. But there's actually a scene where Donatello, as the current Donatello, is meeting the old Raphael, and they're arguing about how dumb they sound. Like, what's wrong with your voice? It's the same voice actor who does both of them, and so it's kind of a nod. It was funny, but it's a well written. It's a good show. But that Krang, like, you can hear his voice is you likely have forgotten it if you haven't seen Ninja Turtles in a while. And when you hear it, you're just like, oh my God, you're right. God, how does whoever did that voice, how do they talk like that for so long? Because it's a lot of it's like inward breathing with the, I don't, it's weird. I can't even do it justice, but sorry, Big L. I don't think we're going to go real in depth on that topic because we have some other news items that we need to get to. There's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, it's E3 season, so we're going to hear a lot of upcoming things. Of course, I mean, that's only like just over a week out. I'm so pumped. By the time this is released, we will be within single digits. I'm looking forward to it. You looking forward to E3, Tarragon?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Microsoft come out with. At least there's certainly been a lot of those rumors about the Scorpio and the Slim and that sort of stuff. But I'm really keen to see actually what they do announce because mostly because I want to know whether or not these rumors are true.
Yeah,
I really kind of hate it when so you get multiple sources coming out with these rumors of things, and it's like, well, I've so many times people come out with these big rumor things and they just turn out to be complete rubbish.
Yeah, absolutely. All clickbait and just trying to get traffic. Yeah. No, I agree. The rumor mill is in full force and it's kind of obnoxious.
Hopefully Red Dead Redemption 2 gets announced. That'll be a good one.
Agreed.
And or a Red Dead Redemption Definitive Edition. That'd be nice too.
I'm down. So let's move into news proper. So for news, I want to start with something that's kind of been sticking in my craw. It's a little on the funny side, but remember when we had talked about Battlefield 1 and DICE had pitched it to Patrick Sutherland saying, hey, this is what we should do. We should go back to World War I. And he's like, no, that sounds dumb. Trench warfare is just not going to be fun. And they went ahead and made a slice for him to see. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's pretty cool, actually. He said that wasn't quite the whole story, and he had mentioned they had a this global technology conference where he kind of elaborated a little bit on what happened. He said there's actually some debate internally about it, suggesting that, and here's his quote: World War I, we were concerned that many of the younger consumers out there didn't know there was a World War II or Vietnam. So, World War I, he's like, not the fact, of course, we talked about trench warfare not being that fun, but that people don't know that World War I existed and why it was important. And this harkens back to when the movie Titanic came out, and people were like tweeting about, they were saying, well, and then, of course, the ship sinks, and they're like, spoiler alert! Like, how am I supposed to know that the ship sank? Like, you got to be kidding me. Or, somebody said, oh, the OMG, I can't believe this is an actual story. This isn't just a movie, that this actually happened. And I'm thinking, how do you not know about the Titanic? And how do you not know about World War I? Like, you're likely familiar with World War II. You just think we started at 2? Like, we just skipped World War I? I don't know. I don't know what they learn at schools these days, but
yeah,
you have to think. Now, that being said, you're not going to know the intricacies of it. And, they kind of go on in this article to talk about, this is in GameSpot, talking about, the technology shift. And there was an interesting, Blake Jorgensen of EA actually said, people started the war on horseback and ended the war with airplanes and tanks and battleships and submarines. Like, the technology shift throughout World War I, it was like, how, we went from semi-regimental warfare to, like, mechanized warfare within the span of this. And, like, that's really interesting about how can we kill people more efficiently and faster. And then all of a sudden, the tactics that came out of it.
Yeah, I think there's even, I think World War I was instrumental to a lot of advances in radio use and even sonar. So there's a lot of big technology changes that happened, particularly in war during that war.
Yeah.
And even World War II to an extent. But yeah, particularly World War I.
Yeah. So, I mean, the history is really great. So if you're one of those dumb kids who doesn't know World War I existed, do yourself a favor and go learn about it because it's interesting. I know, in my history classes, we learned quite a bit about it and all the cool things. And you know what? And if you don't want to go take a history class, play Valiant Hearts and read the sub pieces. That'll at least give you some context. But that's the end of me. I labeled this at our Trello page as "Old Man Yells at Cloud." Like, get off my lawn, you whippersnappers! I'm angry at the world. So we can move on to the news proper after that slight adjourn. Terrigan, what can you tell me about Windows 10 in the Xbox app?
Yeah, there was just some hints during. Let me just bring it up again. Just some hints with the next version of Windows 10 on mobile that they are hinting that they may actually be able to stream a console to it. So you might actually be able to play your Xbox One on your Windows 10 mobile device, like your Windows 10 phone. So
that'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome. So it's interesting, just because there's the Xbox app update for Windows 10 that's hinting at some of that. So we'll see. We'll see.
I mean,
might actually be worth getting one of those phones.
I was playing softball last night, and we finished a little early, and so we're in the parking lot, having some adult beverages, and we were watching the end of the NBA game. Like, we just, wait, quick, let's just pull it up on our phone. We can stream television on our phone and watch the end of Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Like, that just never would have happened, 3, 4, 5 years ago. It just wasn't that good. And now the fact, like, how awesome would it be to be like, yeah, you know what? I'm kind of waiting at the dentist office. I'm gonna just quick get some.
Up some Mirror's Edge.
Yeah. I'm gonna go play some Elite Dangerous. So
that would be quite cool.
Be awesome.
Yeah.
Can't wait. So what can you tell me about Elite Dangerous? Anything new? You had talked about Horizons earlier.
Yeah, the Horizons has dropped for Xbox One, finally. It was actually a bit of a issue with the 1.6 update, which came out about a week ago. So about a week before, it actually dropped around about the same time as the Engineers update dropped for PC. So it was a pretty major update. They did a lot of changes to how mission structures worked. They updated the AI for NPCs, made them actually quite a lot harder. There was quite a lot of changes, but also along with that, a number of glitches. And one of the most interesting ones was NPC. So the NPC ships, their weapons could actually essentially merge with other weapons.
Say what now?
Now, what that means is just due to some kind of memory pointer or some kind of issue with the memory pointers, it could actually merge the characteristics of different weapons. So you can imagine in terms of an FPS, you would imagine that it's a character with a sniper rifle being able to shoot sniper rifle bullets out of a shotgun. It's that kind of mix. And so a lot of people were getting sort of basically wiped out by, things that just shouldn't be possible, like, rail guns that can shoot at the speed of a beam laser and things like that. It was just some ridiculous things occurring. And so they've acknowledged that bug and they released a patch for that pretty quickly, and actually have been issuing refunds for rebuys, because it costs you money to basically rebuy a ship when you get destroyed. So they're now offering refunds on the rebuys since that patch dropped. But yeah, it was pretty funny, and there was quite a lot of uproar about it, about the AIs being basically impossible because a lot of them were getting these kind of glitched super weapons.
Right.
So that was pretty nuts. But anyway, Horizons has dropped. I haven't not had a chance to actually look into it yet. Horizons, of course, includes the planetary landings and the Engineers, which is just like fresh off the press. Planetary landings is what I'm most interested in, because it's basically allows you to go down and ride around in a little buggy on the surface of airless planets and moons and things like that, which is quite cool.
Is there any extraterrestrial life or anything on those planets?
There's these things called barnacles that you find, which are kind of a bit of a mystery. I think they're kind of leading into later expansion stuff with aliens and potential potential war in the entire universe, but we'll see. But yeah, there's barnacles which appear in certain locations that you have to kind of go out and seek out. And there's actually an achievement related to that. Speaking of which, they actually added another 39 achievements to the game with the Horizons drop. So that's going to be another good one for the ratio challenges later on down the track for sure. Yeah, so I've been looking forward to this, but unfortunately have not had the time to play it with the damn Leapfrog.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah. The other thing that actually happened during the 1.6 update, and this will be the last thing I will talk about with Elite Dangerous for now, is the tutorial achievement, which was infamous as basically being near impossible. And in fact was only achieved by about 3 people on True Achievements, and that was because there was a glitch that actually made it a lot easier, which then got patched, and so nobody earned it after that. It's actually been nerfed a little bit, so you can. It's not easy, but it is actually possible to, or much more possible to get the tutorial achievements done, which is essentially a horde mode, not a tutorial. It's a misnamed achievement, really.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so it's like
That's a
bunch
bummer.
of. Yeah, but it's been made a bit easier.
I mean, it's good that it's easier, but did you get a chance to look at the Achievement Hounds forums for the Achievement Hounds Achievement Hunt for the month of June?
No, I did not.
So Oz Bundy Boy said that he was no longer going to run that over at the Achievement Hounds. Okay. And so I saw a comment in the chat that said, hey, could you put one up just kind of for funsies? Like, I know you don't want to do it, but, maybe we can work towards something. I said, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to make a list. And it's going to be unofficial, but whatever. I don't care. So I made the Z to Z podcast achievement list. And so those of you not familiar, the Achievement Hounds Achievement Hunt at the Achievement Hounds forums is there are 6 games with 5 achievements in those games. And the idea is you unlock all 30 of them, or at least earn 5 of the achievements during this 1 month period. Just kind of for fun. And so, of course, I picked Elite Dangerous, Zombie Driver Ultimate Edition. I picked a zombie game I happen to have. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. Project Spark. What else did I pick? The other 2. Yeah, they're very Z to Z focused games. So, it's just kind of for fun. I don't know if anyone's going to do them or not. But one of the achievements was complete the tutorial, because you typically pick some of the you pick the easiest, and I picked Life is Strange as one of them. And for that one, it's like, okay, complete episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, that one's easy. But you pick one at the bottom of the list. You pick one that's more difficult, the one that's most difficult, and kind of have a nice spread of ratios. And so I looked at that Elite Dangerous one. I'm like, oh, tutorial. Great. Yeah, do that one. You're telling me that that's not as easy as playing a typical tutorial. Well, glad they simplified it.
That's about the hardest one. It's about the hardest achievement in the game. Beyond the ones that really take a long time, like getting Triple Elite, it is, it was a very, as I said, there were only 3 people out of everyone on True Achievements who'd actually managed to unlock it. And then nobody unlocked it for months.
That's funny.
When they did the patch. So, it's been made a bit easier now. I think it's like about 10 or 15, maybe 20 people have done it now. So.
Dang. All right. Well, we'll see. What's this news here about the Sega compilation?
A few episodes ago, I mentioned that there was a bit of a trick where you put in one of the Sega or the Genesis compilation discs, and they actually allowed you to download Sonic 1, 2, and 3 and the delisted Golden Axe. That trick is apparently no longer working. I suspect it was an error on Microsoft's part, and that has been fixed. And from what I gather, even people who've managed to download the backwards compatibility version of, say, Golden Axe, for example, they just can't play it because they don't have a disc with a license for it anymore. So that's a bit disappointing. So putting the disc in just doesn't count for those games anymore. So I've had a couple of people mention that to me, that they tried it out and couldn't get it to work. So
interesting.
Yeah, bad luck.
Yeah, that sucks. I don't like when that happens. Hey, maybe they'll come out proper, but yeah, I don't think I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. We got news this week that Fable may not be completely dead. There is a brand new Kickstarter that was just launched for Fable Fortunes. As of now, it has not reached its goal. Still got 24 days of recording, so you got plenty of time after this does air if you're so inclined. It is a Fable-themed collectible card game, very much reminiscent of Hearthstone, with the colorful creations of Fable. This actually was a secret side project that Lionhead Studios was working on, kind of in the vein of how they did the Fable pub games or Fable Heroes, where you had this kind of just weird like mini game type offshoot that likely fed into a main game of sorts. Well, yeah, so they kind of was able to put this thing together, and now that Lionhead is gone, defunct, and broken up, they said, hey, you know what? We're going to take all those resources and go back and make this game, this Fable Fortune.
It's kind of cool. I'm kind of surprised they managed to get the license for it. So I'm not sure how that all worked, but yeah, that's what
threw me off. And so I was just kind of reading a little further along, because I was like, well, Microsoft didn't get rid of the IP though. Like, it's still Fable, and so according to their Kickstarter page, they approached Microsoft hoping for the best, prepared for a corporate hand to the face. This is reading from their Kickstarter. To our delight, they were very open to the idea and agreed to grant us the license for Fable Fortune. And to be clear, we haven't been granted a license for an entire Fable franchise. Microsoft still has those rights, but we have the creative freedom to continue developing Fortune as an independent studio. And we care deeply about Fable, and it means the world to us that Microsoft has trusted us with the continued use of their IP. So that's kind of cool. Like, I mean, it was, because there are other games out there, like board games and stuff, where they just blatantly steal their license, and they're like, I'm going to create, and it's a different type of thing. So what you have is now common knowledge, or whatever. What's the term? Fair game. And so we can use it as we want, and so we're going to make a different. It's not a video game; it's a board game. So we're in a different area.
I remember back in the days, Words with Friends, I think, actually got in trouble with Hasbro, who've got Scrabble.
Yeah,
and basically had to change their game just a little bit so it didn't actually look like a Scrabble board.
Right.
But you can do that. You just have to be careful.
So this is like this weird little co-op. I don't know. Take a look at the Kickstarter. It's might be kind of fun. I don't know if it's not like picking up as much traction as some of these games. Maybe it doesn't quite have the figurehead of an individual who is championing it, and so that's hurting it. Or maybe just not enough people know about it. But there you go, potentially new Fable spin-off. And if you like Hearthstone, you'll likely enjoy this as well. Now, back to Microsoft as the corporate juggernaut it is. Another one of their studios, Mojang, has put down the banhammer. Well, banhammer's not the right tool. They are effectively blocking and have banned other companies' branding in their game. And what they mean by that is, like, you can't go into Minecraft, because it's a creative tool, right? You cannot go into Minecraft anymore and make things to sell your wares. So they make a couple of examples, such as this giant working cell phone that Verizon had commissioned Captain Sparkles to make. Disneyland has made a map of Tomorrowland to promote that film, the Tomorrowland movie that came out with George Clooney. Like, they made a map in there. And so Mojang is saying, nope, not happening anymore. And I think that is like, because I've recently seen like Doom maps, and I've seen like other map recreations like Zelda and whatnot. And so it's like, are they just... Is it because those are individuals doing that on a personal basis, like as an art project, or is it, would it cross the line if somebody had connected that individual with a company and said, "Oh yeah, Nintendo asked me to do this. I'm executing it on my guys."
I think from the article, it was basically just stopping commercial builds of those sort of things. The thing is, I'm not really sure I agree with this because it's not really hurting. It's not really hurting the Minecraft brand. Minecraft is just a tool that allows you to do all those sorts of things. And I mean, a quote working unquote cell phone inside Minecraft is actually a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Even if it is sponsored by a cell phone company and it's essentially a big ad, who cares? It's kind of cool.
I think instead of just saying outright ban, I think what you want to do is curate it and have Mojang look at it and say, yeah, okay, this is actually well made and put together, and it does not negatively impact our brand. Maybe
that's what it is. They're basically just saying we're restricting this. Generally, it's basically no, don't do this. But that would leave the door open that if you want to do it, you need to come and actually talk to them and get approval. So perhaps that's all it is. They just want to maintain control of the brand, particularly when it comes to advertising. So, and I could see that. That's sort of the argument. But the way that thing has been sold is that they're just banning it outright, which just seems a bit short-sighted.
Right. You'd hate for like Playboy to go in there and make an inappropriate picture or something along those lines. Like, hey, look at these creative tools we can do. We can make really inappropriate pictures. It's like, yeah, I could see that being negative to Mojang's product, but yeah, like you said, working cell phone, like that's really cool. That the tools are in the game that you can make, that you've got logic connections and you can actually do, build computers within the game. Like you absolutely should promote that. So anyway, Mojang, that's not where all the news stops with Mojang though, because on their web page they have announced the update 0.15 for, they're calling it the friendly update, and this is for the Pocket Edition of Minecraft,
which includes Windows 10 as well,
which does include Windows 10. Correct. So let me just mention some of these new features here that might do something for you. Mysterious as yet unspecified friendliness, pistons and other sticky pistons, observer blocks, new blocks, blah 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 blah. Here's the one that might do something. Xbox Live achievements on iOS and Android. What? Now we're talking. iOS and Android.
More offline achievements.
Yeah, with achievements.
Which will be definitely offline because every single iOS and Android one have been offline so far.
I don't care. Yes, achievements.
I wonder if they'll cross-unlock.
I don't know. Yeah, could you? Because they also include online multiplayer with Xbox Live friends. So does that mean I can sign into my Xbox Live friends' worlds that are already set up for all these achievements?
Well, yeah, you would presumably you'd be able to sign in and join a world on somebody who's running a world on Windows 10 on an iOS, like your iPhone. That'd be kind of cool.
Agreed. Anyway, that I'm not gonna read the rest of the list. That was just dumb. I was just trying to set up achievements in Pocket Edition on your phone, on your non-Windows phone. Anything I can get achievements on my Android with, I am down for. So there you guys have it. Now, of course, it's still version 0.15, meaning it's still in beta. But the original Minecraft was in beta for like 8 years or something, wasn't it? I don't know when the final quote-unquote release version was, but
when they went to 1.0, it was that was at least 5 years after they'd started.
Yeah. So now of the iOS and Android versions are not available just yet. So you kind of keep your eyes peeled on the Google Play Store or the Apple Store for when they will be.
The games are out. They just
the game's out. Correct. So we'll see. I haven't seen any achievement lists posted on like TA or anything yet, so they're not out there yet. But They're in the update notes, so that's fun. I'm pumped.
Cool.
Now for the big news. This is kind of the big thing that happened this week, and X Towers mentioned it on my friend feed. Of course, it was in the show already proper, and we've discussed this a couple of times on our show. But Vivendi has officially taken control of Gameloft. Which of course is owned by the Guillemot family, who owns Ubisoft. Now, Vivendi had been continually gobbling up pieces of Gameloft, and now it is officially in position to effectively do this hostile takeover.
Which they said all along that they weren't doing.
Right.
Really, really, really obnoxious behavior.
Super obnoxious, and there was a tweet out there from a Bloomberg report that has suggested that Michael Guillemot, the CEO of Gameloft, is going to resign. My guess is that is not his choice to resign, but Vivendi had picked up enough shares and then reached out to all the existing shareholders and made their move. And so now they own essentially 62% of Gameloft and are able to just control what the company does and their next shareholder board. So they haven't been acquired yet. They have to effectively wait for that opportunity to get into those meetings and exert their control with that massive percentage that they own, but it's kind of just a formality at this point.
Yeah.
It's by owning that much of the company, there's nobody who can really, there's nothing that can happen from that standpoint. Now they kind of are turning their sights over to Ubisoft, which has continually been creeping up in their share count. So they're not, we had mentioned before that they had kind of done little bits here and there. They're still down in the 12% range, I think. They're now up to 18%. I think it was a few months ago. It was 15.66%. That's what it was, and that's what they're at now, and that's 18% of Ubisoft's capital. So they're continually climbing into Ubisoft's back pocket here, and
so a creeping death.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And of course, the weird thing is Ubisoft is not struggling financially. I mean, and I think Crandy had mentioned this before. They likely took too much debt to get all these projects going, but this is a Game Informer article that's kind of recapping all of the kind of what's going on. But they just made a list of their most recent games that came out. You could point to Assassin's Creed not selling well, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, but The Division, the Rainbow Six Siege actually sold pretty well, even though now it doesn't quite have the legs now. What else did they just come out with? Just Dance, again, is always remarkably popular. It's just Far Cry Primal did really well because they don't have to be these blockbusters. They just have to make money. And by using so many of the resources from Far Cry 4, Far Cry Primal actually was probably pretty inexpensive to make and sold quite well. So, I think that's just making it more difficult for Vivendi to get in here and take ownership just because Ubisoft is making money. But that's not stopping them. I mean,
the thing is,
it takes longer.
Whether the company's making money or not, it's kind of irrelevant. It's that basically just means has an effect on the share price.
Yeah.
And it's whether or
just
not
costs more.
Whether or not people want to sell those shares in the first place is also, shares aren't just universally available. You need to actually buy them from someone. So Vivendi has to go out there and make offers. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Yeah, hopefully Ubisoft are doing enough to be able to shore up their own ownership in themselves, to basically do a share buyback and retain control.
Yeah, and they've reached out to a bunch of people. They're looking throughout Canada. Actually, they've reached out to the Canadian government. They've reached out to some, venture capitalists. They're trying to secure additional funding internally that they can, like you said, position themselves for a buyback and try to regain as much control as they can. Again, none of that has been spelled out, but this actually is pretty well covered in this. So if you're interested, we'll post a link to this Game Informer article, kind of about the whole what does this mean Vivendi and Ubisoft saga that's been going on. It's very well written, very well detailed. Mike Futter did a fantastic job on this, so give it a read if you're interested. It's, we had mentioned it before, super underhanded, but it's not illegal. You can do it.
It's just business.
It's just business.
It's the seedy side of it.
Yeah, I always look. Because, now with E3 as close as it is, and I'm watching Twitter and stuff, and it's like Ubisoft this week posted a lot of videos about, hey, these are the games you should expect. For Honor, the Watch Dogs 2 is going to be announced. Things like, get ready because this is what's coming. And you're thinking, man, how can you guys even focus on E3 with all this other crap going on in the background? Like, I know they're completely different entities, and Ubisoft is a massive, massive company. But in my head, I always read that, and I'm like, oh, you poor marketing people. Like, you don't know that, you're all going to lose your jobs if Vivendi, gets this buyout going. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But, yeah, I'm not I could like Ubisoft. I don't want them to... And again, we have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I've not been impressed with what Vivendi has done in the past. Look at Activision.
Yeah, Activision.
And they're just not a really good company. I think some of the comments I've read about it, basically just referring to them as basically a parasitic company. They come in and they take over things to inject some profit in it, and then use that to sell that company off again to make money. But from my understanding, in a lot of cases, when those sorts of things happens, the company that they end up selling off is worse off. After that, they're basically doing some sort of bookkeeping funniness to make it look much better on paper than it actually really is, and doing a lot of short-sighted kind of short-sighted profit activities rather than looking at the long term, what's best for the company kind of activities, and just basically so they can sell it off and make their $1 billion profit and go on from that. So Vivendi seems to be a company a bit like that, and I really don't like that sort of thing. I don't think it's good for the industry, and I certainly don't think it'll be good for Ubisoft or Gameloft.
And the other thing, and it's completely just me being a weirdo, but like I hear the name Vivendi, and like I envision it as a person, and it reminds me of like Bulworth from Bully, like the kid. And just like, my name is Vivendi, and I'm gonna come and give you a wedgie, and I'm gonna punch you in the stomach and like steal your milk money.
Take your money,
right? Like I am envisioning this entity as a human, and he's just this big smug, jerk of a bully, and he's. And like the name Vivendi, it's like, yeah, he just sounds like a jerk. Some French jerk who, wants to beat up Ubisoft. Anyway, I don't know why I'm like, turning these into, humans and stuff, but it is what it is. Great. Well, okay, that's it for news proper this week. News is just going to keep coming hot and heavy leading up to E3, and of course, the E3 spectacular that's going to just engross us for at least the week and likely the 2 weeks or 3 weeks after, before things go back to normal, and we just get excited about hype trailers. But what we're not going to forget about is the start of a new month. It's June. So we're going to cover what happened in May.
Here's the leaderboard stats for May 2016. Firstly, some housekeeping. From now on, I'm only going to be discussing the top 25 from each leaderboard in order to keep this segment short. I have started tracking games completed and my personal favourite, games started. I'll be updating those next month once I have something to compare to. While I'm on that, I want to give a shout out to the Endless Bean Dive Trio and my personal friends, Mad Eye Pad Eye, Montana 97 and Sea Monkey Powder. Whilst I was looking at the new leaderboards that I'm tracking, I decided to run some stats, and here's a couple of excerpts from that. It's worth noting that 19% of people on True Achievements have never completed a game. That's right, 19% of people. 1 in 5 people, practically, have never completed a game. If you include DLC in that, 25% of people have never completed a game with all of its DLC. Now, onto the news proper. Firstly, the big news this month, Celtic Force hit 2 million TA, Smirnov has hit 1.3 million gamerscore, and Stallion83 has increased his gamerscore lead over Smirnov by about 7,000, and has narrowed the TA gap down to about 8,000. The top scorer this month was Stallion83 with 40,000 TA and 24,000 gamerscore. Other noteworthy milestones in gamerscore, Jimmy Hover hit 900k, and Lucas 1987, Mini Yoga, and Matt DB87 hit 800k. TA milestones, Randall Thor 19 hit 1.8 million, Big Sexy 1 hit 1.7 million, Red Tanuki hit 1.6 million, Chaos Slayer X187 hit 1.5 million, Sangrias and Terran both hit 1.4 million. Last month I talked about some battles to watch. In Gamerscore, Big Sexy 1 was closing on Redemption Denied for 5th spot, but this month Redemption Denied has responded and has widened the gap. I also reported last month that spots 14 through 18 are all very close, around about the 850 mark. There's been a lot of activity around this space. Practically everyone from 14 down to 25 on the leaderboard changed position in one direction or another. Matt DB87, who's currently number 1 on the game's started leaderboard by a mile, is on the cusp of entering the top 25 for Gamerscore. On the TA front, it's been a fairly quiet month for the top 25. The only notable changes are that Womi lost 2 positions and Spawny Sher is very close to overtaking Sangrias. And that rounds up the leaderboard update for this month.
Shovelware Cemetery.
All right, well, so I mentioned it in the intro that Crandy, despite being on his deathbed from Terrigan's disease, was going to join me for a Shovelware Cemetery, and he also brought along his, maybe his nurse? I don't know. We got Damien here as well. Hey, Damien, Crandy, how you guys doing?
RN.
I was still a little sick, but I can make it through. I'm going to have to pause for some coughing breaks. But we'll make it through.
We'll make it work. All right. Yeah. Just
I still
keep
thought we
pumping
should
the
put him
fluids
down, but
anyway, so what we're crossing. So this is a couple of segments combined into one. This is a Shovelware Cemetery, like we talked about. We're going to do a review on a new game that for the Xbox here, and it also ties into Crandy and I's Playing Zed challenge, which I issued to him earlier in the week, where we gave ourselves 1 week to get as far into the game as possible. Crandy, you made that quite easy to determine who's a winner because you went ahead and just finished it.
Yeah, I did. It turns out it's quite a quick completion. I think it was like, even with the glitch that I encountered, I think it only took me about 6 hours. So it's not too bad. And that involved replaying about half the game because as both of us encountered, some of the trackers stopped working. We're not totally sure why, but we'll get into that in the Shovelware Cemetery bit.
Yeah, so you took me to task on this one. So be it. It was fun. I'm glad we both got to play it, and this is a great opportunity for us to talk about it. So why don't we open it up with a little background on the game. So it's called In Between, and it's published by Heads Up Games. came out on June 8th, actually. So this is when the show comes out. So it's out today, available now. So that's the publisher Head Up Games, developed by Gently Mad. This it's $12 on the store right now,
which is a really good price, by the way.
It's a great price.
Yeah.
And it's rated E10 for whatever you guys care. Very much a puzzle platformer.
Oh, totally.
With a huge emphasis on the puzzle. So the way the game dynamics play is total of 2D. You carry your guy through the unnamed protagonist, and using your right stick, you can manipulate which way gravity is affected, essentially. So if you push up on the stick, your guy gets sucked to the top of the ceiling. If you hit left on the stick, he goes to the left wall. And that is the basis of the puzzle mechanics. So using that with then different wrinkles adds to the challenge and the innovation of this title.
And there are some pretty tough platforming segments too, and so there's no jump, but you kind of platform by moving when you switch gravity, and like there's some that are pretty. You gotta get it just right, or you're gonna get killed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would just call it a gravity puzzler, is really what in essence, because even though to the point platform you have to get around, it's like, how do I clear this gap, but I don't jump.
Right.
But timing of when you hit gravity impacts if you can clear something before a hazard.
Well, and kind of how much you move in between the transition too.
Yeah, and it should also be noted that you can't change gravity while you're transitioning. You have to be on a flat surface to move gravity. Now, you can affect blocks and objects by switching gravity like while they're moving, but you as a character have to be flat-footed before you can affect how the gravity it moves in the world.
Number of deaths finding that out.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And I would say so. We'll talk about the story a little bit. Okay. It literally is a game about grief. It is the 5 stages of grief. Those are like the headers of each level, and during each section, you are presented with a different gameplay mechanic. I personally loved them. I thought they were indicative of what that stage of grief was, and also they provided a very unique kind of approach to how to circumnavigate the world. So the 5 stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. For instance, anger. You first get into that one, and there's like these pulsing red orbs that if you touch, you die. And, so essentially that's your anger orb.
Well, and then there are some that kind of are different. There's some that move with gravity. There's some that follow you.
Yeah.
They kind of, but they all kill you.
Yeah, every one of them.
Everything in here will kill you.
Pretty much.
Basically, you die a lot.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking like Dark Souls a lot.
Yeah, it's like the block. Okay. Hey, this block that helps me can also crush you to death if you accidentally go, didn't want to go to the left. Okay, start over. Okay. Yeah.
But fortunately, you respawn very quickly and have infinite lives. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And there should be noted, there is an achievement for dying 100 times. That is not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I had that at the end of the second world or so. Like it was really early in.
Yeah, it was quite quick. So my kind of overall approach to this was, and as part of our challenge, we said neither one of us was going to use like a cheat or a guide and trying to figure. We wanted to figure this out on our own. Did you hold up to that?
Yeah, there aren't even any guides. Well, I started looking after the achievement glitch just to see if anybody else had the issue.
Yeah.
To see if there was some kind of fix and I didn't have to replay the whole game. But aside from that, no. And I don't think there was anything. I didn't look on YouTube or anything, but there's definitely nothing on TA. So no, yeah, I figured everything out, and they weren't too bad. There were a few that were tough.
Yeah. So the way I put it was
they weren't
difficult, but not unapproachable.
Totally.
That
it was just right.
Right. You could beat your head against the wall for maybe, usually 2 or 3 deaths, and then you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And then in some of the harder levels, so I'm about 90% through the game. I didn't finish it. You guys both
I think
finished
you're.
it, right?
I think you're more than 90%. I think you're like
More than 90?
like 97%. Like you're
Suffice
really
it to
close.
say, I would say up until this last couple pieces here, like I would die maybe once or twice, and then it'd be like, oh, okay, yep, that's what I need to do. This last few levels with moving the light boxes around,
Yeah,
you know,
those ones were tough.
I die quite a bit on those, but it's like, okay, now I kind of see where I'm going. And then once you know, of course, when you die, if you don't reach a checkpoint, you start at the beginning. Now, the levels are really short, so it's not a huge ordeal, but you tend to, get maybe past a certain section, and then you're able to stop on a location and kind of look at, okay, what do I need to do next? And then maybe beat your head against the wall another few more times. But again, difficult but not unapproachable, and I liked it. I thought that level of challenge was right where it was supposed to be.
It was perfect. I think maybe the most amount of time I spent on a single puzzle was 15 minutes.
Yeah, that would towards the end. I think the one thing I didn't even look for any video achievements either, but I think for most of them, I think it was in one of the last ones where you had the light box. You start in that center, and you have to go to the tiles on the left and the right.
That one was really tough.
But it's even when you figure out I know what I need to do, I don't want to watch somebody else do it, because more often than not, some of the deaths weren't, how do I get past the puzzle? It's, okay, I got to time this where I'm dropping and get to the left right after and clearing the spikes, and I keep tapping the spike with my head. So I really didn't want to watch somebody go, hey, look at me, I got better timing than you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that was part of it too, is like, even that 15 minutes, I'm going to say some of it was puzzling and platforming element too, because that one definitely required pretty precise movements.
Yeah.
In addition to the figuring out the puzzle, and that's what I really liked about it is there was that kind of timing and precision aspect in addition to the puzzles.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, like I had mentioned at the beginning, it deals with the 5 stages of grief, and the story is, and you find out almost immediately, which I thought was a really powerful opening, is your character is cruising through a hospital in his wheelchair, and then you go out the front door, and he starts walking, and then kind of is introduced into the world, the puzzle world.
I loved how it just threw you straight in, how there was nothing.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was going to be a cutscene, and it's like, nope.
No,
you start up the game, there it is.
You literally just start moving into the game. And in each level, or not each level, but occasionally in a level, there'll be like this crack in the wall. And when you come up to it, it will open up. And those are the memories. And they kind of replay the part of the story. So either you'll get a small bit of narration over the top of your introduction to the level, or when you reach these little memory cracks, you can watch a small piece of this guy's history, right? He either talks about his wife or his kids or his dad or whatever. And you find out within 2 memories, I think, you are dying of lung cancer, and you are not, and you're not a smoker. Your dad was a smoker. And it's and it's just, so that's the basis of why you're going through the 5 stages of grief.
I thought it right at the beginning it told you had cancer. You just didn't know you had lung cancer. You found that out.
Yeah, okay, maybe that's what it was. But yeah, so it's it's not this happy, fun story. It's it's about depression. It's about just really darkness.
I would call this story wonderfully depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
it really is, but it's so good. It really impressed me too that you were immediately interested in that character like 2 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
How do they even do that?
And he has no name.
No.
He's just the dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, not to spoil anything for you, Freem. Doesn't get any less depressing.
Oh, I can't imagine.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, terminal disease, you can kind of only see where that's going to end.
Oh yeah, I remember it now. Yeah, in the beginning, it's something like they gave me 3 weeks to live or something.
Yeah.
Like right as you're walking out of the hospital.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So as far as like I said, I haven't completed it yet, but as far as the story goes, it's actually really good, and I very much enjoy it. And I think so. My second piece that I want to add to that is I think what amplifies the whole thing is the music.
Oh, the music was wonderful.
It's haunting. And it's great. It's like just fantastic undertone for the whole game, and it just sets the stage for the mood, and it's also just wonderfully orchestrated. And then there are moments, and this in particular I thought was so one of the game elements, the darkness, where you are, it's essentially whichever way you're not looking, this wave of black is coming to overtake you.
Yeah.
And as that wave got closer and closer, I felt as though the music intensified, almost like when you played Sonic the Hedgehog and he was drowning, and it was like, dun, 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 you know, and it like amplified the whole situation. Like, you are going to be overcome by this darkness if you don't turn around and face it down.
Yeah, that was
I didn't notice that, but
Denial, yeah.
Yeah.
Very beginning.
Yeah, if you turned away, the darkness would come towards you, and then you had to face, and it would retract, or it would stop coming forward, depending on.
Yeah, no, I know that part, but I didn't notice the thing with the music. I might have to go back and look at that.
And that's the thing. It's like, did it actually intensify, or was it just like because of the game mechanic? Like, I became more acutely aware of it because I'm hyper focused now.
And that was another thing with the music too. Is it's kind of one of those things where it's like the music is so good you hardly even notice it, but if it wasn't there, something would be super missing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, you do notice it, but it's just like it's so good.
Well, and
it's really, really good.
The one thing that I find a lot of times in puzzlers or puzzle games is I'll try to mute them just because I find it's when I'm trying to concentrate on, okay, how do I go do something? I find sound and a lot of times music, it's either not in sync or, distracting. This one wasn't the case. This was just really well done where you could have that while you were still doing it. And it just played in very well and didn't become something to hamper your experience. If anything, kind of to your point, Frame, it just really, I think, overall enhanced it, which considering what this title is at the price point is, I think that's amazing to show that you can put that much thought and creativity into it, not just into the gameplay and the dynamics, but the sound and that whole experience, and go, wow, this was good on so many levels, even though it was a fairly short puzzler.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that gets into the length is you could definitely get through the whole story in like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like I think my first playthrough was something like 4 hours.
Yeah,
so
sounds about right.
It's
Jamie,
pretty.
what was you went straight through in one sitting, didn't you?
No, I did it over 2 sittings, which is why I had no problems with the counters, ironically or coincidentally. But it says I had a total of 7 hour, 23 minutes, but that was also probably with pause times or load times where I would just sit on a screen and I'd have to go upstairs or go do something. So, I mean,
yeah, I think you're about right, Crandy. Probably 4 to 6 hours of.
Yeah.
It depends on if you got stuck, really. I mean, if there was something you
really
couldn't figure out, of course, that'll increase it.
I noticed a lot of the people on TA, because basically if the counters don't glitch, you're going to complete it on your first playthrough. Like because those memories are also the collectibles, but it's almost impossible to miss them. Like there's maybe like 2 that are not in your direct path.
Yeah.
So it is almost just story related. But if the counters glitch, you end up having to replay a chunk. But I noticed a lot of like looking at people that completed it on TA, you can basically say, okay, well, they just beat the story. And they range and the times are never accurate. They're never totally perfect, but they range from 5 to 10 hours. So that's definitely a safe range to kind of put it in.
Yeah. So it's pretty short. And like you said, Crandy, from achievement standpoint, you will almost assuredly get them in one playthrough, straight through. I would be shocked if you beat the game without dying 100 times. I would be shocked if you didn't find all memories in the main path, or you went out of your way to like gravity dodge the memories. Like that would be impressive because they are literally in your way.
Yeah, I know there is at least one that is not on your main path, but it's like just off of it and you can see it. So you could definitely skip that one if you wanted to, but I don't know why you would. And then I guess the other thing is the credits. So you can't just go and watch the credits. But I don't know if you can skip them either. So I'm not sure if that one's missable or not. If it is, you probably have to just replay the last level and then they're there again. So I don't know. But yeah, that one you might be able to skip if you were really trying.
Yeah, I guess you could just wait for the toast and see what happens. Now, the not so great, and that affected both you and I, Crandy, is the tracking has failed us. I unfortunately in my first playthrough got to 91 deaths, and 5 memories, and I've played it 4 or 5 times since, and that has not moved. So of course I've died way more than 9 times, and just the trackers have completely shut down.
And it seems like this happens when you quit the game and relaunch it.
Yeah.
So something when you leave breaks them. So yeah, I had this happen too. I had to redo the memories achievement. So it took me about an hour. I did it in one sitting. I had to get back to bargaining, which is the 4th world. But after you've played the game once, it's so easy to go back and do it again. It's so reasonable to do it in one sitting. And so actually, you normally would have to go through almost the entire game again, but it also glitches in your favor in that the memories count for more than they're actually worth. So it says, I think the counter's out of 14 or something.
Up to 14, yep.
And there's actually like 20 memories or something. So
I think it counts the one because there's 10 stages or 10 levels per stage, and you're only required to complete 7 out of 10 to get to the next thing. So I think it only counts how many memories you would go through if you didn't go back and play through all levels. But if you had to go play through all levels, yeah,
maybe, yeah.
That's what I noticed by the time, because I had gone back and went into the level select to kind of go, oh, I see. Because you could tell in that level select guide if there's a memory in it because it has a special icon.
Yeah.
So I went in and got some of the memories from the earlier levels. So I had all memories unlocked before I was finished out the last set of levels.
Is there a way to look at where the memories are on the little maps? I didn't see an indicator.
No, not on the maps, but on the little circle, there's like a line on the bottom in the circle for level select.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can see them when you go to level select.
Yeah, but I can't think of any level in that entire game where the memory was hidden outside of the visible track.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. All that being said, right, achievements, great, pretty darn easy. I'll just kind of do my quick review here. Story was fantastic, amplified by the music.
Another thing we forgot is the graphics.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you guys knew, but they're actually all painted.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. Which I thought was really cool, and they just look cool anyway. I mean, if they weren't painted, they're still cool.
It's got that cell shaded look, but you're telling me that's actually paint?
Yeah, but it's actually paint.
Wow.
Yeah. So everything's painted, which is pretty cool.
Very cool. So yeah, love the music. Difficult, but approachable. That's as far as the puzzle elements, if you had a guide, you could whip through this thing real quick. But again, to Damien's point, you're just watching someone play the game, and you might as well, because you still have to execute it yourself. So you'll figure it out as you're going. It's not going to save you that much time. Maybe some of the later levels to show you which buttons to hit when could, save you a few times, but enjoy the experience. There's some clever puzzles here, and never did I think the puzzle was cheap, that they're trying to just get you, that it was intuitive and you would get it through normal exploration of trying to figure out a solution.
And they're very satisfying when you do get those puzzles too. Mm-hmm. They're just hard enough to be satisfying.
Absolutely. Damien, any last words on In Between?
No, I think the one thing Randy said that he did catch it before I was able to say towards the end, that the graphics, everything on that being hand done and all that is amazing. I think, again, we've talked about it in the past cemeteries, when you review things at a certain price point, and I think of just titles that we've reviewed that cost more, that just fail on so many of the things that this game has hit on so well. It's just, I'll be honest, I shed a tear at the end of this game. It's that moving, especially as a parent, and that's I think you've gotten through to that segment, Brandon,
yeah.
so you even know his story. And, I kind of sit there and I get drug into those types of, things, being a parent and thinking it from that aspect. You're like, wow, this is just really, for what this game was, to have that type of emotional thing, and it's a puzzle game. Really, by and large, I just think this game was amazing.
Yeah, it was very good. And it was immediately when you got into it, you just said to yourself, this developer has a story to tell. Like, it comes off almost immediately, and you're just along for the ride and enjoying. Enjoying is a tough word, because it's not like you finished it and you just said, yeah, that made me feel so good. It was.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
You go upstairs, you hug your kids, Brandon. That's what you do.
Right. You're just like, I'm really
build that
glad.
snowman.
I'm really glad somebody that they chose to share that with me, and they did such an amazing job of presenting it. So that's what is enjoyable. You like a wonderful piece of art.
I'm gonna have to rain cloud on it though.
Okay, let's hear it.
I've got a rain cloud here. So I noticed that some of the spikes and some of the darkness, the things that kill you, were a little bit touchy. Like you just hit that edge just a little bit, or there's just it's a little too touchy just on some of that stuff. But that's all I'm gonna rain cloud on. So
yeah,
that's pretty good if that's all it got away with.
To add to that, I guess I would say the darkness part in Depression, like, it was always kind of questionable where the light line was. Like, how deep into the darkness could you get before you were, crushed by it?
And some spots were actually inconsistent. Like, some spots I could go almost fully in the dark and be totally fine. And then some spots it'd like touch your nose and then you'd die. So I don't know. I mean, it's not game breaking.
No, not at all.
Means,
because typically when you were doing stuff like that, it was because you were just trying to cheat it a little. Be like, oh, maybe I can go now. And
no, exactly.
And you're like, oh, all right, I should have waited and been more patient. That was my mistake. All right. So with that being said, let's kind of give our final review here.
Yeah, it's gonna be Sanctuary.
Sanctuary.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah, there's no way this could be varied. It's too good. I gave it 4.5 stars on TA. That's really high for me. So
yeah, absolutely. This is a game I think everyone, if you have an opportunity, worth it at its current price point, $12 on a sale. 100% buy. For sure.
Honestly, like this could have been like 20, and I'd say it's still worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. 20 is a lot because it's
15.
so short. But yeah, it's priced very fairly.
Absolutely.
Sure.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Well, thanks again for crawling out of the grave which with we did this Somewhere Cemetery. And I hope you feel better. Damien, thanks for contributing.
Not a problem.
We'll revisit in later episodes. So this week for Knobs and Discos, the section of unobtainable and discontinued achievements, NBA 2K14. All of the online achievements have been discontinued. Server closure, I presume?
It's probably about that time. Yep.
I think it's about right. So there you go, guys. Those are gone. 2K, that is definitely not the EA Vault, so you can't expect that to be in there. It's gone. That probably sets the clock for 2K15 for 12 more months. So you better get on top of that. Wrapping up the show then is Zombie News Corner. Just a quick E3 rumor that's out there, but we kind of talked about this before. Dead Rising 4 will be at E3, and it's quote-unquote going to make fans of the series very happy. This is kind of a rumor from within Capcom Vancouver. There was a user on NeoGAF who kind of mentioned that regarding these leaks. So again, total rumor. Who knows? I think we kind of can assume that Dead Rising 4 was on the list here, but It's coming. I don't know if it's going to be another Frank West vehicle or somebody else, but
Yeah, I was going to say, what would make fans very happy is if Frank West came back.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So, but the piece of zombie news that it really made me laugh. Actually, Terrigan can attest to it because I watched the trailer while he was on the call, and I sounded like an idiot laughing to myself because he had no context for it. But the mobile game Hitman Sniper, it has received a new free update called the Death Valley Challenge Mode, and I urge you to go to our show notes and watch the trailer for Hitman Sniper, the Death Valley video. The link here is to a Game Informer article, but you can find it on YouTube, Hitman Sniper, Death Valley. I'm debating whether I should try and do it on the podcast, if I can do it justice, but they have equivalent of Big Voice Guy, the the prototypical Big Voice Guy, and the way the trailer lays out is a short 1-minute trailer, but it's essentially like, when your car breaks down, and who else would you rather get your back than the most proficient sniper in all of history, Agent 47. And essentially then it opens up on this dude trying to work on his car, and he's being surrounded by zombies with which you use the scope. He said, yeah, I'm not even going to try to do it justice. Watch the video. It's great. It has all sorts of zombies in it, including monkey zombies, apparently. I don't even know. But and Ben Random Guy, yeah, he's a good dude. So it's funny. But there you go. Zombies in your mobile Hitman game. It's literally just a sniper shooter. There's so many of those out there, but good stuff. Good stuff. All right, so with that end of zombie news, we will wrap this show up. I want to thank everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed our podcast because Terrigan and I had a good fun tonight, even though it's super late and my voice is completely falling apart. I will ask if you guys could absolutely help us out by rating us on your favorite podcast app, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you end up listening to this show. That would be super helpful. It really helps us get noticed by others and spreads the word. We could not do this without the positive word of mouth that we get from all of you listening. Of course, that extends to Twitter, Facebook, and TA, and all other social media that you guys are privy to. It's amazing the type of audience we've grown with very little of our own marketing. So we owe that all to you and your positive feedback. So thank you so much. Of course, you can get so much information about us and the show at our website, zedtozed.com, ZEDTOZED. There you're going to find those show notes I was referring to, lots of clips and links to everything that we've talked about. And I referenced tons of stuff for you to go to. Best place to contact us is probably through Twitter, at ZedTozed. Of course, if you're not on Twitter, then you should use our email, contact@zedtozed.com, or private message us through TA. We love hearing from the community and reaching out and setting up sessions, getting our Playing Zed challenges together. We also have, as I mentioned, leaderboards set up at trueachievements.com. That is a great avenue for us to tell you about all the awesome news and goings on in the Zed to Zed universe, specifically for random to-do lists when that comes, whenever we get our forums up and going, or anytime we need a guest host for a community show. That's where we're going to go to. So I totally recommend that you sign on to our True Achievements leaderboard. And of course, we cannot do this show without all of the sites and support that we get from achievement hosting websites or news sites such as Game Informer. IGN helped out this week, Engadget, And of course, we couldn't do this without the help of Microsoft and all of their support for the Xbox console. I cannot wait to hear about all the cool stuff that they have going on with E3 right around the corner. So, with that being said, on behalf of Terrigan, this has been Brandon. And to all of you achievement hunters and Gamerscore junkies out there, thank you so much for listening. And we'll catch you next episode.
Catch you later, guys. Leapfrog is really actually throwing a spanner in my general gaming at the moment.
Hey, so do you guys have wrenches?
Yeah,
Like,
but
because you use the word spanner, obviously.
You throw a spanner in the works is kind of
It's a wrench.
common.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but like the tool that you call a spanner is a tool that we call a wrench.
yeah,
Yeah. So, like, do you use wrenches over there?
yeah. But
But you just call them spanners.
we call them spanners. Yeah, it's like a shifting spanner. It's like a shifter. I don't know what you call those. So like it's an adjustable wrench.
Yeah.
But I mean, we still have like monkey wrenches for it's mostly a plumber's thing.
It's not a monkey spanner.
No.
All right, fine. I'll take your word for it. Now I have my dog climbing on me.
That's perfect.
That's probably going in the outtakes.
There's a whole bunch of them. Like, I apologize to Tara again because